Jason, the innocent and compassionate boy, happily invited the elderly cleaning lady to his birthday party because he saw her as an important part of his everyday life. But what he didn't know was that his mother was a racist and forbade him from inviting her on his special day. Welcome to the Proud Stories channel. Let us know what device you're watching from by leaving a comment below. The neighborhood where Jason lives is an upscale residential area featuring large villas and tree-lined streets. The bright summer morning sun shines through the trees, casting dazzling rays onto the pristine white houses and lush green lawns. Children play outside, their laughter echoing from casual conversations among the adults. Amidst this lively atmosphere, racism quietly persists, lurking in every word, gesture, and glance. Jason's birthday party is held in the spacious backyard of his house, a lavish setting with colorful balloons and sweet cakes. Each cake is meticulously decorated with vibrant colors and playful designs loved by children. Jason runs and plays with his friends, their laughter blending with the soft music from the outdoor speaker. Everything seems perfect, from the food-filled tables to the fun games for the kids. While the adults gather and talk about fancy parties, business deals, and travel trips, no one notices the workers quietly doing their jobs. Andela, a black woman, is diligently cleaning the trash by the roadside. She doesn't expect thanks, only to complete her work. Everyone in the neighborhood is used to Andela's presence. She's not a stranger, but no one bothers to greet her or even pay attention to her. When they see her, their eyes just glance over, with no curiosity or care. She's part of the scenery, but not part of this life. People only see Andela as a trash collector, not as a person with feelings, aspirations, and certainly not someone worthy of being invited to a wealthy family's party. However, Jason, a 9-year-old boy with a kind heart, sees something different. He sees Andela not just as a worker, but as a hardworking, patient woman who always smiles while working. Jason doesn't know what racism is, but he senses the injustice in the way the adults treat Andela. So, he decides to do what no one else dares to do: invite Andela to his birthday party. Jason runs up to her while the other children play together. Holding a birthday invitation in his hand, his bright eyes look up at Andela, and he says, "Hi, Andela. Can you come to my birthday party? I want you to be a special guest." Andela looks at him, her eyes filled with surprise and confusion. She looks around, clearly feeling the difference between her and the other children. But then she looks back at Jason, seeing the innocence and kindness in his eyes, and feels a warm sensation in her heart. "Thank you, Jason. But I don't think I can come," she says. Jason insists, "You can. Everyone will be so happy to have you there." He beams with a bright smile, unaware that his actions will spark a storm in the neighborhood, where all the biases and racism will start to surface. Andela's emotions swell, but she doesn't say anything else. She stands still, feeling confused and touched. She's just a trash collector, and in this rich neighborhood, she's never been invited to any party. But Jason, the innocent boy, sees her as a friend without any discrimination. When Mrs. Elizabeth sees Jason handing the invitation to Andela, her heart immediately fills with discomfort. The anger that had simmered in her for years about the workers in the neighborhood, especially those doing the trash collection work, flares up. And now, her son, Jason, the son she was proud to have raised in such an upscale neighborhood, is inviting someone like Andela to his birthday party. She can't hold back anymore. Anger erupts as she quickly steps outside, her face flushed with rage. The door bursts open with a loud bang, and she sees Andela walking through the gate, rolling up her coat sleeve, smiling gently. But that smile feels like a cold splash of water on her heart. Mrs. Elizabeth takes a deep breath, then shouts in a cold, piercing voice that echoes across the yard, "Who is she, Jason? She's dirty, a trash collector. She has no right to be here, no right to be near the children." Jason is stunned, his heart pounding in his chest. He can't understand why his mother is saying these things. His mother, the one he's always loved and looked up to, doesn't know the friendship he shares with Andela. He runs to Andela, his eyes red with anger and disappointment. "Mom, stop. Andela is my friend. I invited her," Jason shouts, his voice hoarse, his small hands clenched tight. He can't stand seeing how his mother treats his friend like that. At that moment, other children, who were playing nearby, gather around Andela, and they can't stay silent anymore. A boy stands up, pointing at Mrs. Elizabeth, and says loudly, "Andela didn't do anything wrong. She's a good person." A girl's voice rises. "Jason's mom is wrong. She's our friend." Andela stands silently, saying nothing. She only looks at Mrs. Elizabeth with a sad gaze, her heart aching as she witnesses the blatant discrimination directed at her. But just as she opens her mouth to explain, Mrs. Elizabeth can't wait any longer and shouts, "You're not allowed to talk to my son. You don't have any right to be here." The atmosphere suddenly becomes tense and suffocating. Jason, unable to take it any longer, runs to hug Andela tightly while tears start to flow. He sobs uncontrollably, his small body shaking in panic. Moments later, the sound of a police siren blares outside the gate, and a police car stops in front of the house. The officer steps out, assessing the tense situation before him. Mrs. Elizabeth, red-faced with fury, immediately yells as soon as the officer approaches, "She trespassed into my house." Elizabeth screams, "She's threatening the children. Arrest her now." She points at Andela, her face filled with rage. Andela, still with her head down, felt as though she was being pushed into a corner with no way out. She stood there, silently, as tears began to fall. But Jason, with all the courage of a child, rushed up and hugged her tightly, crying out, "Andela didn't do anything wrong. Mom is lying. She's my friend." The police officer, a tall man with a deep and calm voice, turned to Jason while clearly observing the situation. "Did you invite her?" the officer asked, his tone gentle but serious. Jason, his eyes red from crying, nodded through his sobs. "Yes, she's my friend. Mom is wrong." The officer turned to Elizabeth, his gaze still calm but filled with sternness. "Ma'am, she was invited by your son. There's been no trespassing or harassment here," the officer said, pausing for a moment to let Elizabeth absorb his words. Elizabeth, unwilling to back down, flushed with anger. She yelled, But she's trash. She's not allowed to be here. She's not like us." The officer sighed, lowered his head, and shook it slightly in disappointment. He took a step toward Elizabeth, his voice firm and reproachful. "Ma'am, racism is unacceptable. If you continue causing trouble, we will ask you to leave the party area." At this moment, the atmosphere in the yard grew eerily quiet. Neighbors stood at a distance, witnessing everything that was happening. They began whispering to one another, with some starting to realize the wrongfulness of Elizabeth's actions. Elizabeth saw that no one was on her side. Every gaze around her was filled with criticism. She realized that her actions had not only hurt Andela, but had also forced her son to witness an unbearable embarrassment. She lowered her head, with no more words to say, stepping back and leaving the party in silence, overwhelmed by regret and shame. Jason watched his mother's retreating figure, his heart aching from the change he saw in her. But in that moment, he also felt a sense of relief as he saw the children, the neighbors, and Andela standing by his side, united in support. That feeling was warm, and Jason knew that, no matter what, he would always stand up for what he believed was right. When Elizabeth turned around, she realized that the crowd of neighbors had gathered in full, standing silently, their gazes no longer filled with respect or agreement as before. Those eyes no longer looked at her with admiration but with reproach, even disdain. Every person in the crowd had an uncomfortable look in their eyes, their disdain not hidden at all. The men, women, and even children stood still, silent, but that silence was a condemnation that could not be denied. Elizabeth felt the tension in the air, as if everyone's eyes were piercing her. Unable to endure it any longer, she began to feel a sense of shame and awkwardness rising within her. This was a feeling she had never experienced during her years living in this neighborhood, where she had always prided herself on her class and reputation. But now, she realized no one was standing by her side. Suddenly, a neighbor, a middle-aged man whom she had rarely noticed, stepped up to Andela. He didn't look at Elizabeth, but instead, he looked directly at Andela with a gaze full of empathy. He placed his hand gently on Andela's shoulder, warmly, and then spoke up loudly, fearlessly, making everyone around pay attention. "We appreciate hard workers like you. Don't let anyone's words hurt you," he said to Andela, his voice strong but respectful. The people around them began nodding, their gazes changing. A woman nearby stepped up and gently patted Andela's shoulder, adding, "That's right, Andela. You deserve to be treated better than this. We know you're a good person. Don't let anyone take away your dignity." Elizabeth stood there, her face flushed, seeing no one on her side. Not a single neighbor, no one supporting her. Everyone was turning toward Andela, some even repeating words of encouragement and defense. The shame she felt deepened. In that moment, she realized that her actions, the harsh words she had directed at Andela, had not only hurt her, but had also hurt herself. She lowered her head, unable to look anyone in the eye. A deep sense of shame and awkwardness overwhelmed her. She couldn't bear the gazes of the neighbors. Her legs felt weak, no longer as confident as before, and frustration welled up inside her. She took a step back, bowed her head, and walked away from the party in silence, without any explanation or excuse. Every step she took was a symbol of failure. Elizabeth realized that she had not only lost her reputation in the eyes of the community, but also the respect of those she had considered beneath her. This feeling was unbearable, painful. The path from the garden back to her house seemed to stretch much longer, and every step she took felt like an acknowledgement of failure, of pride that had caused her to lose everything. The party resumed its lively atmosphere after the intense moment. Jason, with a bright smile on his face, rushed to Andela. The boy hugged her tightly, not wanting to let go, as if afraid she would be hurt again. He whispered, "Thank you, Andela. I don't want anyone to hurt you anymore." Andela, her eyes full of tears, softly replied, "Thank you, Jason. I really don't know what to say. I feel appreciated for the first time in my life." The crowd around them, the neighbors, all began clapping and cheering. "Andela, we support you." A woman stood up and said loudly, "We respect hard workers like you. Don't let anyone's harsh words hurt you." The officer walked up to Andela, his voice gentle but firm as he looked at Elizabeth, who still stood motionless, her face red. The officer gently patted Andela's shoulder. "You don't have to worry. Everything will be fine. We're here to protect you." He turned to face Elizabeth, his gaze sharp, his voice calm but full of warning. "Mrs. Elizabeth, any act of racism will not be tolerated in this community. I hope you learn your lesson and respect everyone, no matter who they are." Jason stood beside Andela, seeing the joy and relief on her face. He realized that his friendship not only made Andela feel loved, but could also change how the adults around him saw things. He thought to himself, kindness and true courage can really change things around us, right? Andela is not a stranger. She's my friend. Meanwhile, Elizabeth stood silently, looking at the children and neighbors who supported Andela. She felt a profound sense of regret. Though she had acted out of anger and arrogance, she now realized she hadn't just hurt Andela, but also disappointed her son. The shame continued to rise, overwhelming her mind. "My son, what have I done?" she wondered, unable to answer. The evening sky gradually turned golden orange, and the children released balloons into the sky, symbolizing a release from biases and discrimination. Jason held Angela's hand, along with his friends, all looking up at the sky with hopeful eyes. Each balloon was like a ray of light, carrying a message of kindness and mutual respect. Angela held Jason's hand, her eyes shining with unexpected joy and emotion. She turned to the children around her and said, "You all are amazing. Thank you so much." As the balloons drifted out of sight, Elizabeth stood at a distance, silently observing. From that viewpoint, she saw herself as small, lost among the crowd who joined in the joy. She couldn't understand why she had done such terrible things. She sighed, feeling the regret rise within her like a storm that could never be erased. Do you think Elizabeth truly learned a lesson after this? Will she change after this event or continue to live with her racial prejudice? If you were Jason, what would you do to protect your friend? If you feel moved by this story, please like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss future heartwarming stories from Proud Stories. Share your own story with us and help spread the message of kindness and mutual respect.